All right, so I gave Lords of Salem. I got the steel book for like $9 on eBay. Brandon Orlick from the Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast talked me into getting this. He was talking about it. He was like, "Oh, it's only like $10 here and there," and it wasn't. And then I found it on eBay for like $9, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So I did find a copy for the price that he said, and I've been wanting to rewatch this ever since I watched it originally because I wasn't a big fan of it, and I know so many people who love it. Like Exploding Heads fucking loves this movie. You know, Dave Z is like his fucking favorite film. A lot of you have no idea who the hell I'm talking about right now, but just please check out Exploding Heads horror movie podcast. Man, those guys are fucking amazing. Anyway, um, but yeah, like Dave Z, who's like the host, fucking loves movies. Like his favorite movie of that year, 2015 or something. And it's just like, dude, okay, I gotta watch this thing again. Some people blow this. Some people say it's the best Rob Zombie film. Blah blah blah. And and I'll have to say, okay, on my rewatch, did I like it more? Yes. Did I love it? No. Um, so first off, I feel like the film just tries too hard to be um, weird and filled with this nightmarish imagery that gives it some kind of um, credibility when it comes to the you know metaphors or something like that, where you're just like, oh, there's something deeper here. I don't think there is. Like, I think it's very surface level. Like, films like this typically are films that need to be analyzed to be understood. And there's like this deeper meaning, and you really got to pay attention to the pieces and place them together, and you can come up with all these different kinds of interpretations. And the director and the writer, they all had something in mind when they wrote it, and they left it ambiguous for people to kind of deliberate and discuss and whatnot, break it down and look at all the little pieces and whatever. I just don't find that here. Now I've watched it a second time, I was really trying to pay attention, and I just think it's like a pretty straightforward film that's trying to. It's almost pretentious. It's almost like it's trying to pretend that it has some kind of deeper meaning to it, but it doesn't actually. Okay. Now, of course, people are going to disagree with me on this, and I'll get some comments that are like, "No, bro, this is this," and cool. Please bring them on and let me know below what's so deep about this film. And some people might not. Maybe they'll say that on the flip side. They'll be like, "Oh, that's not the point. You're missing the point. Like the film is straightforward, and it's all about its atmosphere and its imagery and this and that." Now, okay, that's fine, but then on that rebuttal, I will say this. I think the atmosphere in this movie is fairly uneven. Like, I didn't feel a building sense of dread as well as I feel like the film was trying to convey. For some reason, it was feeling a little off to me in its tone. And it just like, I could never get a sense of built atmosphere throughout. It's not void of it, it's just inconsistent. And I think that maybe why is because the relentless dream sequences. Now, the dream sequences themselves are fine because it's really more about the psychological breakdown of our main character here, of course, played by Sherry Moon Zombie, which makes an appearance in every one of Zombie's films. But it just kind of takes you out of it because you have so many moments that didn't happen. But then it's like, well, they did for her. So, like, I can kind of excuse them. I mostly excuse them. So I'm not, like, mad at them. But I do think it's the fault of why the film doesn't atmospherically feel coherent and you know, um, I don't feel like it retains throughout. You know, so but that's what I just came up with, just trying to understand why I wasn't feeling the atmosphere throughout as much as I feel like it should have had. Now, I do feel like this is his most refined, and I do think this is his most mature film that he's made, for sure. He pretty much all but dropped the rednecky dialogue that he typically writes into all of his characters. Like, even though these are rocker guys and women and they run this like DJ show and all this, most of them aren't trashy. Like, our main character here, she's pretty normal. She's a pretty normal like rocker chick. She's not ghetto. She's not fucking, some redneck, trash. She's nothing like that. We barely get anything like that in this movie, which was extremely refreshing, because it's like, Rob, okay, man, like, let's show some depth here. Let's show, that you're not a one-trick pony. But this film is really kind of just like a Rob Zombie's take on Rosemary's Baby. Rob Zombie's Baby, if you will, which is, kind of ironic since, Sherry Moon plays Baby in his most famous movie. But yeah, it's very reminiscent of something like that. That's essentially what he's going for here. Now, I am not a fan of Rosemary's Baby at all. So maybe people who love Rosemary's Baby, they're going to be, more of the target audience for this. Maybe, the people who liked this, I'm guessing, are people who are a fan of Rosemary's Baby. I'm not saying that everybody like Rosemary's Baby is going to like this movie. I'm saying that I think that the people who did probably also like Rosemary's Baby. I just don't. I find the film boring as fuck, and I've watched the film many, many times. I can't get into it for nothing. Now, this movie does deal with witches, and it is a serious R-rated horror film, which I'm always asking for. So that's cool. You got, Meg Foster, who's looking not so good, as your main witch here. And you got this like satanic opening, and then you got the opening title card, which is like right next to this goat head and all this. That's actually really cool stuff. I love the title card and everything. I think that all looks great. The witch stuff is pretty good. As I said before, I feel like there are things in here that just feel like they're trying too hard. And I think that's also what hurts the atmosphere, is like moments will happen and it's like, okay, here's weird imagery for weird imagery's sake. Like, this is going to ramp things up. This is going to make things feel off kilter. And it's just like, I don't know. Is this earned? And another thing about earned, like, we don't really get to know much about anybody. Like, I couldn't tell you a fucking thing about almost anybody in this movie, for like, outside of maybe what their job is, and like maybe what they sleep in and stuff like that, which of course Rob Zombie always wants to showcase his wife's ass. He's just in love with this woman's ass, which, hey man, it's his fucking wife. I mean, good for him. That's awesome. And then I thought it was really ridiculous, although now thinking back upon it, I was going to say ridiculous, but now I'm like, oh wait, no, that makes perfect sense. So never mind. But what I was getting at was that she goes down and she tells her landlady, like, I saw someone in room 5, and she's like, there's no one in room 5. Like, no big deal, like, whatever. Of course, we come to find out that she's actually like a fucking witch. So it would make sense that she already knows there's somebody in there. So when I originally saw it, I didn't know she was in on it. So I wrote down that was stupid that she would be like, yeah, no, we're good. Like, I'm not going up there. And she didn't even go in and look. And I was like, what? And now that I've seen the end of the movie, though, it makes perfect sense. So I should have remembered that as I was about to read it, but that is what it is. No editing here, as always. And the whole radio DJ, this kind of reminds me of like Stretch from Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I feel like this is kind of a lost art. Now, are there, radio DJs and this and that in the cities and all that? Yeah, sure. But are they ever going to be what they were? Is that ever going to be? Like, I remember waking up. I used to live in Lake Arrowhead, California, many years ago, and I used to listen to Dick and Justice on the radio every morning. Every morning, I would record it if I couldn't get up in time. Whatever, it was on at like 6 a.m. and I would get myself up, or I'd stay up till then to listen to these fucking guys. And I called in. I was on the show all the time because I was such a huge fan. And these guys would just make me laugh and laugh. I thought they were so funny and so cool and so whatever. And so those are my radio DJs. You know, when I lived in LA, you had real popular ones. Of course, like Howard Stern was probably the most popular of all time. And then you had what was it, like something and Bean, Kevin and Bean, or is that it? Kevin and Bean, on K Rock, I want to say. 106.7 K-Rock. I think that's what it was. But that was when I was living in Huntington Beach, California, back in the 90s. But it's like seeing this. I'm like, oh, that was a cool job, man. That'd be such a cool job to like just sit down, talk to people, talk to your audience, and throw on records. You know, like Stevie Wayne and freaking The Fog or something. That's cool. And as I said, it's kind of a dying job, dying art. And I don't know, it's kind of sad when I was watching this, but I like the premise of this. I like the whole Diablos in music kind of thing. I like where they get delivered this record and they play it on the radio, and it like taints all the women in town, and you know, ends up leading them to their demise because they show up for this Lord's show, and they're all descendants of these people from the past, and they all, you know, die at the feet of this almost angelic freaking Saint Mary kind of looking fucking figure that she turns into at the end, after she births this little midget tendril fucking thing. I don't know what the hell's going on with any of that. I don't understand any of that shit. Like, for me, it's just weird for weird's sake, you know. But as I said, I'm willing to be proven wrong. I noticed Barbara Crampton and Sid Hagen here for like 1 second each. So real quick cameos from them. You got a lot of familiar faces in here. Dee Wallace gets a good amount of screen time, but Dee Wallace is not the best actress. It's just you know, just the hard truth. But whatever. I still like seeing her. And then you get the fucking scene where the main Witcher is just spitting into a baby's face. I'm pretty sure that is the baby from a Serbian film. I'm pretty fucking sure. It looks just as fake. It was pretty funny. I was looking at it. I think they even mentioned that in, I think I'm getting that from the Exploding Heads horror movie podcast, but I don't know. I think I would have thought it anyways, even if I didn't hear it there first. I'm just remembering it now, though, so whatever. And the Sasquatch demon, this big Sasquatch demon, that was cool. That's the thing that should have been impregnating her. Maybe it is. I don't know. And then she has this like dream sequence where she's like blowing a priest in a church, and he's saying all this satanic shit, and like black shit comes out of his throat. That's, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would be extremely offended by that. Good. They should be. Why not? People need to have their ideas challenged. I always tell people all the time, I'm like, fucking offending, who gives a shit? If you've been offended before, fuck off. Like, who cares? It's really not a big deal. Like, oh, I got offended. Oh, did you die? Could you not get up off the floor because you were so offended? Like, it's good to be offended. It's good to offend people. Fucking offend people. Okay? They need to have their ideas challenged. It's okay. You know, gets good dialogue, it gets good self-reflection, it either reaffirms your stance or makes you think about your own bullshit. Like, offend the fuck out of people. It's good for them. Fuck them. Anyway. And yeah, like, I think Sherry Moon's performance in this is pretty good. I mean, overall, it's fine. It's not really demanding of a ton, but at the same time, it's not like it's an easy performance. So I'm going to say it's good. It's good. I've never disliked her. I think she's fine in everything. In fact, I think she's really good in Devil's Rejects. I was going to say House, but I'm going to lean more towards Devils. I think Devils is her best, work overall. If I had to pick one of the films for her, yeah, I think that's her best performance. So I don't dislike her. I think Baby is a very iconic slasher villain, if you will, if you want to call it that. Um, as Michael's mom, she's fine. She plays it well. The ghost version of her in 2 is kind of silly, so I'm not really going to count that. I don't even remember what the fuck she does in 31. Um, and obviously she plays Baby again later. So yeah, I would say this, and then I would say this is her second best performance, because I think Baby is kind of just Baby in all 3 of the Firefly trilogy. So you can kind of all count that as one performance. And let's see. Yeah, you got the gold cathedral room with the midget demon with the tendrils, and she's like holding on to them like dicks. I thought she was gonna start sucking on them at some point. Maybe she did, and they cut it out. I don't know. Rob Zombie jacks off to him on a nightly basis. And then, yeah, I mean, I kind of already said everything. Yeah, I did. For some reason, my writing is like shitty here, and then it's like really nice here. The hell? That's kind of weird. Yeah. So overall, I get why people like this so much. I guess I'm higher on it than I was before. I can at least now say I don't hate the movie like I did before. Like I thought it was terrible the first time. I thought it was boring as fuck and just weird for weird's sake and all that. Now I still hold some of those sentiments to be true, but I think the film has won me over a little bit more, and this is something I would like to watch with somebody who loves it and kind of get their perspective in real time as it's on, kind of chat about it throughout. Yeah, and then like the whole love story between her and her co-host, that's not explored upon at fucking all. That's just like shoehorned in there. Like they get a little bit of it in there with them and him over spending the night and this and that, but there's no like torrid romance there. There's no like her like pushing him away, like, no, we shouldn't tonight, like, no, there's no past, there's no nothing. We don't know a fucking thing. Do we know if they've ever fucked? Do we know what their relationship's like? Do we know? I like their banter though, like Ken Foree and them. Like I really like the group of that ensemble cast there when they're at the radio show and they're talking back and forth. I think that's the best part of the movie. I think the first like 30 minutes of this movie, just establishing, getting these like real like slower songs playing, not zombie type shit at all. Everything's kind of very subdued. I liked that a lot. I really liked that. It was a huge change of pace for this guy, and I dug the shit out of it. So I was sitting there like, yeah, I really like this. And then when it starts to get real weird and like it's injecting some kind of like nightmarish imagery and this and that, it's like typically that's where I would start to like the movie more, and that's actually where I started to like the movie less. Because I was like, oh man, I kind of really dug these characters. Like I wanted to get to know them better, and I thought maybe if I knew more about them and I cared more about them, then I'd care more about the sequences in which she's, put in these predicaments, and her starting to lose her mind and all that. Like I don't know, man. I just feel like there's so much unexplored here. There's so much not touched upon. It's all just very surface. It's all very hollow. Like I just don't get much out of it. Like I still think it's a fine movie. I don't see it being great. But maybe I'll get a comment below. It'll tell me why this movie's awesome. Let me know. So there you go. Lords of Salem in the books. Adios.